Disappearance cases are always chilling, but the story of Laureen Rahn, a 14-year-old who vanished without a trace in 1980, continues to confound investigators and haunt her family. Despite various leads and sightings, her whereabouts remain a mystery. The case has drawn comparisons to other missing persons around the same time, but no definitive connection has been made. This story remains one of the most perplexing cold cases in New Hampshire, with strange details like mysterious phone calls and alleged connections to a child pornography ring. It's no wonder that this case continues to intrigue those fascinated by unsolved mysteries. A night like any other, or so it seemed. On the night of April 26, 1980, Laureen, a bright and talented student, stayed at home while her mother, Judith, went out with her tennis coach boyfriend. Normally, Laureen would accompany her mother to these events, but on this night, she asked to stay behind. It was spring break, and Laureen wanted to spend time with her friends, a decision that in hindsight appears hauntingly fateful. That night, Laureen drank beer and wine with a female friend and a male friend in her Manchester, New Hampshire apartment. The male friend left before Judith returned home, fearing that he would get in trouble for drinking underage. When Judith arrived home around midnight, she noticed that the hallways of the apartment building were eerily dark. Someone had unscrewed the light bulbs on all 3 floors. Judith didn't realize anything was wrong until morning, believing at first that her daughter was asleep in her bed, vanishing without a trace. Laureen's mother initially thought she saw her daughter in bed, only to discover in the morning that it was her friend. Laureen had disappeared, leaving behind her belongings, including a new pair of sneakers she had just received as a birthday gift. Police initially classified Laureen as a runaway, but her mother immediately suspected something far more sinister. Laureen's clothes, purse, and other personal items were still in the apartment, making it unlikely that she had left voluntarily. Over the next few weeks, police began to reassess their theory, concluding that Laureen had likely left the apartment but intended to return shortly. This shift in perspective was largely due to the lack of evidence supporting a runaway scenario. The open back door raised many questions. Was it a clue or just an oversight? Investigators were stumped from the get-go. A case of mistaken identity or something more? The theory that Laureen left willingly didn't hold up for long, especially after it was discovered that she had left all her essential belongings behind. Her friend who stayed over that night last saw her sleeping on the couch, but by morning, she was gone. What happened in those few hours remains a complete mystery. Some believe Laureen might have gone outside to meet someone and was possibly lured away. There were no signs of a struggle, leading authorities to consider the possibility that Laureen knew her abductor. Some investigators suspected that her disappearance might have been linked to a growing number of child abductions occurring in the area during that period. However, no clear evidence or witnesses came forward to shed light on what truly happened. The California connection. The mystery deepened months later when phone records showed 3 strange calls made from motels in California. These calls occurred months after Laureen's disappearance, and none of the motels had any registered ties to her family. 2 calls were made to motels, and the 3rd call was made to a hotline for teenage sexual assistance. Detectives tracked the number and linked it to a doctor who ran the hotline, but when questioned, he denied any knowledge of Laureen. This lead raised concerns that Laureen may have been trafficked, though no conclusive evidence was found. Even more troubling, the investigation uncovered that a suspected child pornographer, known as Dr. Z, had been operating in the area where the calls were made, but authorities could not definitively link him to Laureen's disappearance. Sightings and suspicions. Over the years, numerous reported sightings of Laureen emerged, from Boston to Alaska. Each sighting brought a glimmer of hope to the Rahn family, but none ever panned out. The most credible sighting came from a witness who believed they saw Laureen at a bus terminal in Boston in 1981. However, after following up on the lead, authorities were unable to confirm that the girl was Laureen. Some theories suggest that she was being held against her will and moved from place to place. An investigator even received a tip that Laureen was spotted in Anchorage, Alaska, working as a prostitute. While this report seemed plausible, the timeline made it unlikely that the woman seen was Laureen. To date, no confirmed sightings have surfaced, and her trail has remained cold. A grieving family's long wait. Laureen's family has been relentless in their pursuit of answers. Her mother, Judith, eventually moved to Florida, but she never stopped searching for her daughter. For years, Judith received mysterious phone calls around 3:45 a.m., during which the caller remained silent. These calls became more frequent around the holidays, leading Judith to believe they were from Laureen. She even hired a private investigator to track down leads, but nothing concrete ever came from it. Her family remains divided. Some believe she is still alive, while others have accepted that she likely met a tragic fate. In the years following Laureen's disappearance, her mother remarried and relocated to Florida, but she never stopped hoping for her daughter's return. Shady suspects and suicide. The male friend who was with Laureen that night later took his own life in 1985. While police cleared him as a suspect, his suicide has added another layer of suspicion to an already complicated case. He had been the last person to see Laureen before she disappeared, and while investigators never found any evidence to suggest his involvement, the timing of his death remains troubling. Suicide can sometimes indicate unresolved guilt or a deeper connection to a crime. However, since there was no direct link between his death and Laureen's case, this lead quickly went cold. Serial killer theories. As if the case wasn't mysterious enough, Laureen's disappearance has been tentatively linked to several other cold cases in the area, including the disappearance of 25-year-old Denise Dunault, who vanished just 6 weeks after Laureen. Both women bore a striking resemblance, despite their age difference. Some believe that a serial killer may have been operating in the area at the time, preying on young women. In particular, Terry Peter Rasmussen, also known as the Bear Brook Killer, has been suggested as a possible suspect. Rasmussen lived in the area at the time, under a pseudonym, and is believed to have killed several women during that period. Still, there is no hard evidence tying him to Laureen's disappearance. Hope fades, but questions remain. Despite decades of uncertainty, Judith and the Rahn family haven't given up on Laureen. They hope that one day, someone, somewhere, will come forward with the missing piece of the puzzle. It's hard not to imagine the haunting silence of those midnight phone calls, a painful reminder that the truth about Laureen's fate may never fully come to light. The disappearance of Laureen Rahn has baffled authorities for 44 years, and while new cold cases often attract media attention, this case serves as a chilling reminder that sometimes, even in the modern age, people can vanish without a trace. Could she still be out there, or has her story reached its tragic conclusion long ago? Only time will tell. And that wraps up our deep dive into the mysterious disappearance of Laureen Rahn, a case that still haunts investigators and her family to this day. What do you think happened that night? Could Laureen still be out there, or is there a darker truth lurking beneath the surface? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on all our latest content.